everybody. Welcome to the Sichos Haran shiur. My name is Effie Sussman, and tonight we're going to be doing Sicha number 48. So this Sicha encompasses it all. We're going to discuss falling, starting over, devotion towards Hashem, a lot of very simple but deep basics. This piece really gives a person the best advice to reach very high levels. So let's just dive right in. We're going to read the piece. I'm just going to pull up the share screen. Okay, here we go. 48. The Rebbe often spoke about his childhood piety, his awe, holiness, and alacrity. He said that he began anew many times each day. He would begin the day with deep devotion, resolving that from then on he would be a true servant of God. Then the temptation of food or such would get the better of him, and he would fall from his high level of devotion. But on that same day, he would begin again with new resolve toward true devotion. So Rebbe Nachman's telling us that when he was young, that he had very intense devotion towards Hashem. But when it would come time to eat, he would give in to his taiva, and his level would drop. Thus, the Rebbe would fall and begin anew many times each day. He often told us how he continually began serving God anew. So again, Rebbe Nachman tells us he would fall many times each day, and he would start over many times each day. At times, your prayer and devotion may seem devoid of meaning. Strengthen yourself and begin anew. Act as if you were just beginning to serve God. No matter how many times you fall, rise up and start again. Do this again and again. Otherwise, you will never become a true Jew who is coming close to God. So he tells us sometimes it's going to seem like we have no kavanah, no meaning, no feeling in what we're doing. But don't be discouraged. Just rise up and start anew. And I want to highlight one line. He says, do this again and again. Otherwise, you will never become a true Jew or who is coming close to God. So there's kind of like a threat here. Like if you don't know the basics about starting over again and renewing, then you risk never becoming a true Jew who is coming close to God. Draw yourself toward God with all your might. Remain strong no matter how low you fall. Whether you go up or down, always yearn to come close to God. No matter how low you have sunk, stay resolved and determined to draw close to God and to yearn and pine for Him and cry out to God. Do everything you can to serve Him with joy. Without this inner strength, you will never be able to truly approach God. He tells us no matter how low you fall, still stay focused to return to Him. Keep going until you are willing to serve God your whole life, even without a promise of reward. You may imagine that you are so far from God that you have no future reward. You must still serve Him as you can, even without such a promise. It may seem that you are heading for Gehenna. Nevertheless, you have a responsibility to do what you can. Continue to serve God as best you can. Snatch a good deed, a lesson, a prayer, and God will do what is good in His eyes. So it might seem to a person that everything's lost on him, that he's headed only towards a bad place. But still, he's telling us, chop whatever mitzvos you can, and don't worry about reward. Just strive to come close to Hashem. So, okay. Then he tells a story from the Baal Shem Tov. It is told that the Baal Shem Tov once became very dejected. He could find no inspiration and was sure that he no longer merited the world to come. He had absolutely nothing with which to revive himself. But then he said, I love God, even without the reward of the world to come. This strength of resolution is the only path to God, and no matter who you are, you can still follow it. Begin anew, even many times each day. As time passes, you will then find yourself taking the road leading to God. Amen. So he ends this piece by again reminding us, just start over. He wants it to go into our kishkas. He wants it to be part of our MO, our essence. Start over. I'm going to stop the share. So let's begin. So I want to bring in a few pieces from Shivchey Haran that really show this devotion that Rebbe Nachman had as a child. I'm going to bring in the share screen again. So we're going to start with the first Shivchey Haran, his praises. I'm just going to read inside. As a small child, the Rebbe decided that he would detach himself completely from this world. He wanted to break the desire to eat, but because he was young, he thought it would be impossible to forgo his regular meals. He decided that he would swallow his food without chewing it. In this way, he would not derive any pleasure from the food. He continued doing this until his throat became completely swollen. When the Rebbe recounted this, he mentioned that he was only 6 years old at the time. We once heard of a great tzaddik who swallowed his food without chewing it, and this was considered very unique. The Rebbe did this just when he was a child. So, as we can see from this, Rebbe Nachman was a very serious kid, and at 6 years old, he did very extreme things like swallowing food whole in order to come close to Hashem. So we're going to read number 5 in Shivchey Haran now. Here it is. This is the way the Rebbe serves God. All his devotions all his devotions were concealed to such an extent that not a single person knew about them. He kept everything well hidden, cloaked in great secrecy, so he didn't spread what he was doing. At first, the Rebbe's ways of serving God was one of extreme simplicity. He did not resort to any sophistication, but wanted a very uncomplicated path. When the Rebbe was involved in his devotions, he did everything with great strength and effort. No form of devotion came easily, and the Rebbe literally had to lay down his life in many cases. Each thing required tremendous effort, and he had to work hard each time he wanted to do something to serve God. He had thousands upon thousands of ups and downs. The most difficult thing was to begin to serve God and accept the yoke of true devotion. Each time he would begin, he would find himself falling. He would then begin anew and stumble yet another time. This occurred countless times, over and over again. Finally, the Rebbe resolved to stand fast and maintain his foothold without paying attention to anything else in the world. From then on, his heart was firm in its devotion to God, but even so, he went up and down many times. By then, however, he was determined never to abandon his devotion. No matter how many times he fell, no matter what happened, he would remain devoted to God to the very best of his ability. So this is a great piece. So Rebbe Nachman was desperate to stay close to Hashem. And as it said, his life was on the line a few times. But he said still the hardest thing was to start over again and again. And because he kept on messing up, as it says, he had thousands upon thousands of ups and downs. So because Rebbe Nachman kept on messing up and his level would fall, so he just, again, would start anew, start all over again. And the last piece I want to bring in from Shivchey Haran is piece number 6, which is actually very similar to the Sichos Haran piece that we read. The Rebbe became accustomed to constantly begin anew. Whenever he fell from his particular level, he did not give up. He would simply say, I will act as if I am just beginning to devote myself to God, and this is the very first time. This happened time and time again. And each time he would start all over again. He would often begin anew many times in a single day, for even in the course of a day, there were many times when he would fall from his high level of devotion, but each time he would start again, no matter how many times it happened, even within a single day. So it's just great to point out here about how not only would he start over again, once a week, once every few days, it says many times a day. In the same day, he had to start over again. It's just, I feel like this reminds me of the best parable for this is really the parable for dieting, if you go to nutritionists or you speak to people, they'll tell you, okay, if you mess up, you had some ice cream in a cone, yes, it's very fattening, but don't say your whole day is over and just eat whatever you want after that. Just stay strong on the diet. So this piece actually reminds me of it. Lahadil, but this piece is the same thing. Just because you mess up once doesn't mean you have to mess up 100 times after. The main thing is to start anew. So I brought in these pieces that I read about Rebbe Nachman because it's just amazing to note that this devoted tzaddik is the one that is telling us, no matter what, don't give up and start over. It's not a person who we can relate to and relate to his failures. You know, his failures, as we read before in the first sikha that we did, was, you know, he gave into the taiva of food. Like, I mean, my taivas personally are a lot worse. So it's amazing. He, Rebbe Nachman was practically perfect as a child, as we could see. Yet he's the one who's telling us, no matter how much you mess up, no matter what level you're on, don't give up hope and just start over. It's, to be honest, like, I find it difficult to even build on this piece, because it's really just enough said. Like, if we would just have this ingrained in us to just start over and start over. I actually have a son, my Nachman, who he has, sometimes it's hard for him to write things, and he has some OT issues, and it's amazing because every time I get like a progress report from a teacher, almost every teacher mentions to me, like, you know what's so great about him? Like, I could tell him to redo his work 50 times and he doesn't care. Like, he doesn't get frustrated. He just keeps on going at it. And I think, like, it's such an amazing quality to have. Like, I wish that I had that quality, that you just don't give up. Like, it's like, okay, so I have to rewrite the letter K. I'll rewrite the letter K. No thinking about it. Just moving on. This is what needs to be done. I do it. No giving up. No feeling bad about it. Just doing what needs to be done. I think, like, you need to have a lot of strength and courage to start over 1,000 times a day like that. And we say in Birchos Kriyat Shema, Mechadesh kol yom tamid ma'asav reishos, right? Hashem is renewing the world at every moment. He's recreating the world all day. So I think we could learn from that how we have to really renew ourselves too. 1,000 times a day, if that's what we need. Every second is something new. So, I mean, we have to mention here how lucky we are that we have a Hashem that wants us so badly and that lets us start over. And I think that's really another very, very important point to bring out in this piece. There's a whole piece in Lekutey Maharan 17. I didn't bring it inside. It's pretty lengthy, but I mean, Mirz Hashem, I would really like to do it one day. But it's really about how precious Knesset Yisrael is to Hashem. And it's a beautiful and very special piece. But one of the main points in this piece is that Hashem loves us so much and takes so much pride in us that no matter how much wrong we do, Hashem will always forgive us. So, that's the godless, and that is huge. It's huge, right? Hashem will always forgive us, and we're so lucky that we could restart 1,000 times a day, and Hashem will accept it. We're very lucky. So the last piece I wanted to bring in is from Kitzur Lekutey Maharan, number 261. Rebbe Nachman's going to teach us in this piece why people do fall from their spiritual level, and he's going to continue on the same path of advice. So I'm just going to pull up the piece. Rotate it. Okay, here we are, 261. When a person falls from his spiritual level, he should know that it is divinely ordained. So when a person falls from his level, this is from Hashem. For the whole reason a person is distanced from God is in order that he should ultimately draw even closer. So when a person is far from Hashem, the whole point of it is for them to come closer. This is why he fell, in order that he should arouse himself more to draw close to God. What a person should do when he falls is to start serving God anew as if he had never even started at all. This is the cardinal rule in the service of God, that one must start anew, literally, every day. So Rebbe Nachman's telling us that the reason why people fall is actually to bring them closer to Hashem. So it's Yurida L'Tzorech Aliyah. They go down in order to come up. So therefore, Rebbe Nachman's telling us, don't be discouraged, but rather start over, and Hashem will bring you to new heights. So I just want to give us all a bracha to really have the strength and the courage not to be discouraged when we mess up, but to see it really as an opportunity to come closer to Hashem. So thank you everyone for listening, and have a good night.